At 21 years old, I built a $30,000 a month passive Section 8 portfolio with my properties. And today I'm going to walk you through step by step how to get started and get your first property under contract that's cash flowing you $1,400 per month. The first step, save up $25,000. That is the magic number. Why is it the magic number? Because with $25,000, you can put 20% down on a property that's around $80,000 in value. And yes, these exist. Look at the Midwest. I'm sure that you're going to find, just browsing Zillow, some perfectly turnkey, gorgeous homes that are about $80,000 that need pretty much no work. The $25K is also going to cover the closing costs involved because those always exist. People tend to forget those for some reason. And you're going to be able to handle any basic renovations or reserves. You don't need to save $100,000, right? You just need to start small and stay disciplined. Me personally, well, I automate my savings. Every single paycheck, a chunk of it goes from my checking account to a high yield savings account, getting me about 4%. And while I was trying to save up, I crazy cut my expenses. I mean, I pretty much lived like I was broke because I partially was at the time, and I really only focused on saving up as much money as humanly possible. And when you hit $25,000, that is where the real game gets started. Now you can proceed to your first purchase. And for those of you saying, oh, $25,000 is too much money. Oh, this person said I only need $5,000. Well, if you want to get into this with even less, here's what you have to consider. A, if you put less than 20%, you have to use some weird creative financing that typically ruins your cash flow. And also keep in mind, the average home price in the US is $400,000. If you wanted to just buy a regular rental, 20% of that's $80K, plus another $10K in closing costs. So in all, $90,000 for a regular rental that's probably cash flowing just $500 like this strategy. What I am explaining is easily one of the cheapest ways to get your first rental property. After you've saved $25K, now we're going on to the next step, which is forming your LLC and using a certain special type of loan. And this is where most beginners mess up. They mess up the structure. You need to form an LLC. Here is why. It protects your personal assets. It is called a limited liability company for a reason, limited liability. You can easily make the LLC for $150, so money shouldn't be an issue here. Plus, you're gonna get way more than that in tax savings alone. And if you make the LLC, the only thing that's going to be inside of this LLC is the rental property itself. Meaning, if you get sued, they can only go after the rental property because that is your only asset. They will not be able to go after your personal items like your personal car or your personal home. Another reason is because it simply looks more professional to lenders, tenants, contractors, and even the seller when you present an offer to them. It also keeps your business finances clean and separate because the last thing you want is for a judge to do something in court known as piercing the corporate veil, basically meaning your LLC becomes null and void because you are mixing, commingling different funds from your personal account and your business account. Moving forward, once you have the actual LLC in place, you also don't need to use your traditional W-2 income in order to qualify you. That is where the special type of loan comes in called DSCR loans, debt service coverage ratio loans. These loans are based on the property's ability to pay for itself. If the rent covers the mortgage and expenses, then you're good. Chances are you will get approved for the loan as long as you have 20% down and a 680 credit score. Typically, these DSCR lenders look for a 1.2 times ratio. Now, what does that mean? It means if your mortgage and taxes equal $1,000 a month, then they're looking for the rent to be at least $1,200. I have never had an issue getting our properties approved with my DSCR lenders. My personal lenders have literally no loan minimum. I know that a lot of banks will say, oh, you need to buy a house that's at least 100K, 150K, etc. There's no minimum with my guys. They can also close using a brand new LLC in pretty much any state in the US. And they really only ask for bank statements, LLC documents, and a form of ID. That's it. Now, why is this beneficial to you other than the obvious things that I've just said? Well, you avoid maxing out your personal credit. For those that don't know, you also can only have a certain number of conventional loans under your name. Usually it's 10. Once you pass 10, they cap you. You can keep your debt to income low because after all, these are again tied to your LLC itself. And you can scale faster without hitting roadblocks. I mean, the last thing you want is you're passing up good deals because you literally can't get approved or close fast enough compared to conventional lenders. So this is the blueprint that I suggest to my students and that I myself used over and over. Now you might be thinking, oh man, this sounds too good to be true. What is the con here? Like, why doesn't every single person use this? Well, the main con is that the interest rate is typically 1 point higher than a conventional loan. But honestly, with the cheap home prices we're going for, I mean, they're like $80,000, $90,000. It increases your mortgage by like $40 a month. Real quick, if this is clicking for you and you're serious about building your own Section 8 portfolio, the first link in the description is to my one-on-one mentorship program. You'll work with me directly, no fluff, no gatekeeping, just the real playbook. And the second link in the description is to my free school community, which has over 400 investors already inside, communicating, chatting with each other, and I run free live webinars twice a week. So come learn, come ask questions, and connect with people doing the exact same thing. All right, back to it. Now, here's the strategy I used with every single property. I focused on $80,000 properties and $1,400 rents with Section 8. That's it, nothing else. Now, before you start freaking out, why Section 8? There's a few reasons. The first is guaranteed rent from HUD. People don't know this, but Section 8 literally direct deposits the rent to your bank account every single month. So even during COVID, Section 8 was paying consistently. Not a single payment was ever missed as long as you're passing your inspections. So even if COVID 2.0 or a new recession happens, you are safe. There's also insanely high demand for new landlords. Only about 5% of all homes in the US are accepting Section 8. Meanwhile, 11.1% of all Americans fall under the poverty line of less than $14,000 per year income. So these wait lists to enter the Section 8 program are on average 20 months, so almost 2 years, with some places like Chicago being 20 plus years on waitlist sometimes. And on top of that, rent increases are baked in over time. So you're actually allowed to ask the housing authority every single year on the anniversary of your lease to increase the rents by 3 to 5%. So yes, it is negotiable. It's not just set in stone for the rest of your life. And no, the tenants won't destroy your property. That is mostly a result of landlords being both scummy and not vetting tenants correctly. For every bad tenant that exists, there are 30 good ones, and my mentorship students get my custom guide on vetting tenants. These properties that I'm talking about have cash flowed right away due to the government direct deposit. And that cash flow is what fuels everything else to continue snowballing. And I wasn't looking for appreciation with these deals, that was kind of just a cherry on top. The focus was monthly income. The next part, and I kind of briefly mentioned it, is snowballing. This right here is where most people lose. They get that first rent check, start hip hip hurraying, and they start spending. That is a huge mistake. The key is to never touch the money. You want to stack it, reinvest it, and use it to fund your next payment. Here is an actual example of how fast this all snowballs if you never touch the money. So my first property, $80,000. We rented it for $1,400 a month. So after mortgage and expenses, it was netting about $500 per month. So after 6 months, that is $3,000 saved in rental income. Combine that with my regular W-2 savings, and that is enough for property number 2. Now, you have 2 properties. That brings in $2,800 a month in gross, which nets $1,000 per month. So in another 6 months, you're ready for property number 3. Now fast forward, by the time you hit 7 properties, you are going to start recycling the cash so fast that you won't even need to use your job income anymore. On average, our mentorship students are hitting 21 properties within 3 to 5 years, all rented to HUD tenants, averaging $1,400 a month each. Guess how much 21 properties get you? $29,400 a month in gross revenue. Even with vacancies and maintenance, you're going to consistently clear over $10K a month net. And with property management or software, you don't really have to be involved daily. This system builds momentum, so it's real passive income, but only when done correctly. The next step is, how do you make it passive? You're rolling in dough, but what now? If you want to make this run without you, you have 2 options. The first is hiring a property manager. I typically recommend doing this once you've had 4 to 5 doors under your belt. The property manager typically takes 8 to 10% of the gross rent, and in return, you pretty much will never be contacted until an emergency happens. In my opinion, that 10% is definitely worth your time and honestly your stress levels and mentality, but only if you pick good management. Now let's say that you have a little bit of free time every single month. You're okay dealing with them. You've already been managing 4 to 5 doors yourself and it's been going fine. How do you optimize that? Well, you can use property management software like RentSpree, Tenant Cloud, or if you have a lot more doors, like 30 plus, you can use AppFolio. So these are tools that automate the rent collection. They automate work orders, maintenance tickets, and any communication with the tenant themselves. And no, they're not that expensive. Like RentSpree, I believe is $2 for every house. Something like Tenant Cloud, I think is a flat like 20 bucks a month for unlimited homes. And I even know that there are companies out there that are trying to develop AI property managers. I don't think any have really come out yet, but I don't know, maybe a year from now. Because the goal with this is to not create another job. Your goal is to create a machine that runs while you're sleeping. But now, you know the basics of Section 8. You need to take it to the next level and learn how to actually find these properties. And there's also a strategy that I recently started using that's allowed me to find properties that make me $1,400 per unit and only 3% down payment. So go ahead and watch this video on the screen next so I can show you exactly what it is, how it works, and how you can use it to start building a cash flowing portfolio of Section 8 properties. As always, I'm Joseph Khateri, realtor in the state of Virginia. Have a nice day.